Hey guys, there's something I need to tell you. Something I'm not super proud of, but it is the reality of who I am and more importantly, who I was. You see, I haven't been totally honest with you guys. You see, in the past, things were different for me. They looked different. It's tough to say, but when I was younger, in my 20s, it was a strange time in my life, and I'm afraid to say I was a bit of a hack. Yep, it's true. In my 20s, I was a little bit of a hack. I took some shortcuts when I built this car. I've been building cars forever since I was, well, my first car since I was 15 or 14 when I got that car. It was a 66 Mustang Coupe that my dad bought for me. So I've been messing with cars for a long time. And I've had this particular car for 15 years. When I was 25, I got this car, and I'm 40 now, so that's 15 years. When I originally built this car, I kind of took some shortcuts and covered it with paint and body filler, and it looked good, and it was good enough. And for a lot of people, it would probably be fine. But over the past 15 years, I've kind of changed into a fabricator where if something's wrong, it's going to bother me, and I need to kind of address it and get it right. I don't want to build this car again, so I'm going through everything slowly and methodically to the best of my ability. I'm not the top tier guy, but and I'm not trying to be. I'm just trying to be better than the one I was previously. So I did some things in this car, or to this car, when I was younger that kind of sucked. And I'm going to right the wrong today, and we're going to fix it. So let's take a look at some shortcuts that I took, what I did wrong, and how I can fix it. So check it out and be gentle. Thanks.
All right, guys, so here lies one of my major sins. If you look closely at the heater core area of this car, it's not accurate. Where in the factory setup, there would be a bump out here for rigidity, and I think one along here. And I don't have either of those. And the reason I don't have either of those is because a long time ago, I actually cut that panel out and I shaved it flat. And my thought process behind that was I was going to put air conditioning in the car, and I wanted it flat. Well, I didn't have the resources to do that, but my hopes and dreams were big. But they failed me. So I ended up cutting holes back in it for the factory heater box. You can see even my hose holes there aren't even lined up. But now, thankfully, you know, a couple years down the road, I'm in a position where I can put AC in the car and kind of build it how I want it. So I'm going to cut that back out and redo it, bead roll some cool stuff in it. I haven't figured out the design I'm going to do yet, but I'm going to do that. And it is going to look 100% better. Now, remember earlier I said it kind of looks okay? It really does, especially with the engine stuffed in there. You're like, you can't see that. That's fine. But the sins are on the inside. Let's look at that. Okay. This is bad. Warning you. Check that shit out. That is no good. I'm embarrassed to even show this, but this is what a 25-year-old me did with a flux core welder a long time ago. Holy crap, huh? So, how do we fix that? It's actually not going to be that hard to fix. I bought 4 cutoff wheels, and I'm going to cut it back out. And I got a new piece of sheet metal, a clean piece of new sheet metal. That's actually a piece of a hood under there. God, I don't know why I'm telling you all this. This is embarrassing almost. But we're going to bead roll something cool in it to give it some strength and kind of lay out where I want all the lines to go in. And I got to get one of those 4-hole thingies for the AC and heat, like a billet one like that. I want to get that and figure out where that's going to go. So we're going to do that and then weld that thing up correctly. That's actually lapped which lap joints are no good, especially in sheet metal that's covered with carpet and other things where it might get moisture under it. We're gonna get rid of all that shit. I'm gonna butt weld it. I've got a technique that I've used successfully in the past, and I'm gonna show you how I do that, and we're gonna get this thing done right, and then it's gonna be one less thing that's gonna bother me. So let's, I guess let's start by cutting it out. I think since the interior's still in this car, and I don't wanna pull it all out, actually, it's just a piece of carpet, it's not that much. But the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try the old body saw and see if that works. If it's giving me a hard time, I'll switch over to the old death wheel and knock it out that way. All right, I got it cut out. I got to come back inside with a flap wheel and clean up some of these edges. I still got some garbage up here at the top to knock off before I weld the new piece back in. But I want to straighten all this stuff, and the idea is to get this shape as perfect as I can, so when I fit the new piece in, there's not a bunch of back and forth that I have to do, that I can just make a piece that fits and then work it around with as straight edges and curves and contours as I can get. So let's take a look at the inside real quick. Yeah, that's from a 1970 Mustang hood. Okay, you can see I've got the inside to clean up still. What's crazy, it's not that crazy, but one of the things that I noticed as I was cutting, the welds are super, super hard. So when I go back through and I do this again, I'm gonna TIG it, which in and of itself is gonna be a lot softer. And I'm also gonna use silicon bronze, which flows at a super low temperature and is gonna make working this kind of stuff real nice. These are the kind of things I didn't know when I was 25 when I did it. So I just zapped it in there with the old squirt gun and called it good. So the sins of our youth, I suppose, huh? Okay, got it cleaned up. I didn't remember doing this, but there was body filler like all the way up to here. I got to get behind this and hammer and dolly a lot of the shape back into it. It looks like hammered dog shit. So I'm gonna do that, and then what I'm gonna do is take my new sheet metal and I'll show you how I'm gonna get the shape. And what I'm gonna do, I gotta leave the shape a little bit large because I have to bead roll some strength into it first before I weld it into the car. So leaving it a little bit large is gonna let me have that room for that. Okay guys, I've cut my piece of metal here. It's just 1 foot by 1 foot, and what I'm gonna do is I am going to put it up against the firewall here, and I'm going to secure it with some Clecos, and then I'm gonna go on the inside and transfer the shape, and then I'm gonna cut it out. Okay, now that I've got it temporarily fastened with Clecos from the outside, you can see I got a pretty good shot at just getting the shape here. So I'm going to use a Sharpie, get the shape, and then cut it out. All right, so this is that's the shape. That little template right there, a piece of cardboard, is the shape of the bulkhead fitting that I'm going to run. Now there's another kind. There's actually several, but like one that's like square like that, and then but I think that one's going to look better. So it's basically going to have like 2 heater hoses and then the 2 AC lines coming out. And I just went online and found the dimensions of it and cut out that template and kind of it's just taped on there so I can see what it looks like. So I like that. So now what I need to do is come up with some kind of bead in there that will strengthen that thing. I don't know. I'm thinking of maybe just a regular, just a step, not a step bead, but just a regular bead. Maybe that comes up here like this and then curves out that way. That might do it and look good. Let me draw some things on there and see what it looks like. Okay, forgive my artistic inability here, but I think that's what I'm gonna do, is I'm just gonna do one bead that's at an angle there and one that's straight up and down, and it kind of matches the factory stuff. Of course, the bead is gonna be a different shape and diameter and all that stuff, but overall I think that's a winner. I gotta get back in here with a hammer dolly, fix all that crap before I start weld that plate in, because once I weld that plate I lose access to it from working from the engine compartment, because right now I can get my arm back there behind it with a dolly and work that. So let me beat on that for a little bit, get that where I want it. Okay guys, so here is the front of the panel as it installs on the Firewall. It goes this way. What I've done is I've laid out the 2 bead locations that I want. I'm going to put one right here, just a kind of a deep regular bead, not a step or anything like that, just a regular bead right here, and then one that's vertical. It's going to match the rest of it. Now what I'm going to do before I bead roll it, because I don't want to distort the panel, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-stretch it on the English wheel. Rough fit here, and it looks pretty good. It's very close. Now what I'm going to do from this point is I'm just going to hand fit it basically. So I'm taking the die grinder or the angle grinder here, and I'm just going around the edges, and I'm going to start in the easiest to locate place, which for me is going to be this upper left hand corner, and I'm shaping it by hand until it fits that corner perfectly. Okay, I got the plate welded in. I managed to keep the heat out of it for the most part, so I didn't sink it, and those beads really stiffened things up, so it went in good. I know it looks kind of like crap right now, but I'm going to go through and finish it. So my process for that is initially I'm going to knock down all the big weld, and I'm going to do that with the largest wheel I can, and the thought there is a bigger wheel is going to put less heat in one spot and kind of keep the heat spread out, which is beneficial. So we're going to knock all that weld down. I'm going to get behind it, and of course putting heat into it's going to sink it. So I'm going to knock the majority of the weld down, get behind, beat it out to push the metal forward from where it sinks, and then I'll continue finishing it until it's smooth, and then I'll go through it with progressively finer sandpaper and DA, and hopefully minimize the amount of body filler I got to use. So it's coming together. Okay, we're getting somewhere here. I've got most of the Firewall buttoned up here, and let's see if I can adjust that. Anyways, there's the style of bulkhead fitting I went with, and now you can kind of see why I ran the bead the way I did. Just gonna have it there. I think it'll look pretty clean. So what I'm gonna do now is I already marked the locations of where the holes need to be. So I'm gonna take it off and or take that faceplate off of there, drill the holes and install them and see what it looks like. Okay, so I got the holes drilled, everything fits. I did a dry run there, it all fits up fine. The only thing I am gonna do, there's something that I don't like.
on the back side here, the nuts on this end, they just go right up against the sheet metal, and I don't like that. So I've got this little piece of, I think this might be Delrin, I don't know, it's some kind of plastic. But I'm gonna make basically a kind of a backing sheet or a gasket or something that's gonna go between the firewall and those nuts. That way, because these nuts are aluminum. These nuts are aluminum, and it just, I don't like the way that it tightens up against it. It kind of galls it. So I'm gonna cut this out, punch some holes in there, and I'll show you when it's done. All right, guys, here's what I came up with. Just cut the outside shape of it, and then used a leather punch on this smaller one. And I actually had to make a punch up on the lathe for these bigger ones. These are like, I don't know, 800 thousandths almost. I'm sure it's all metric. I don't know what the equivalent would be, but I didn't have a punch for it, so I had to make one. So anyways, got a little carried away over there. It's no big deal. I think this one, if you can see, they kind of shooting away from each other. I got to relieve that one a little bit more so it sits a little bit flat. But at least now the aluminum nut on the inside of these is going to have something soft to push against rather than the inside of the firewall, so it won't gall. Okay, guys, that's it. I got everything welded in and the bulkhead fitting installed, and that is it. All the welds came out good. There is a little bit of body filler in there because I did have some warpage, but not nearly as much as what was in there before. So I'm pretty happy with that, and yeah, that's it. So my favorite part about it is how that bulkhead fitting kind of follows the line of the apron there. I really like that. It's gonna look good, especially with the engine installed. So yeah, I guess after, I don't know what it's been, 15 years or so since I've had it sitting like that, I've undid some wrongs that I've committed to this car. So still quite a bit of work to do under the engine bay. I still need to totally sand everything. I got some more holes to fill and everything else, but it's coming together. It's gonna be done pretty soon, at least the engine bay, and then we'll get the engine installed. Well, first brakes. I think brakes are first, but yeah, that's the deal there. Well, that's it, guys. We got that done. So it's one more thing off the list. Like I said, next I guess is probably brakes, and then paint the engine bay, and we're gonna install the engine. So yeah, this is kind of full circle for me. When I first started working on cars and got this car, I didn't have knowledge and access to a lot of the tools that I do now. So I did things that probably weren't the wisest choice for this car, but I'm righting those wrongs now. And like I said, this is the last time I want to build this car. I've built it too many times now. That's not true. This is the second iteration of this car. But anyways, once I'm done with this, it's going to be together, and I'm going to use it for its purposes, which is just cruising and a little bit of autocross probably, and Power Tour 2022. So that's the reason for the air conditioning. But anyways, guys, thanks a lot for tuning in and checking this one out, and stay tuned for the next one, I guess. Soon, brakes and some other things like that. So thanks a lot, guys. See ya.